Sai Chandana, you can unmute
Yes.
and you can start the program.
Okay, sir. Honorable Chairman of Shri Vidyaniketan Educational Institutions, Padma Shri Dr. M. Mohan Babu sir, our dynamic and revered CEO, Mr. Vishnu Manchu sir, Principal of Shri Vidyaniketan Degree College, Dr. D. Asha Lata ma'am, teachers and delegates of today's program. A very delightful evening to one and all. I am Sai Chandana Venkatila. I feel privileged to welcome you all on behalf of Shri Vidyaniketan Degree College for today's webinar on mini projects for microbiology undergraduate students. As we all know, how much the projects are important for undergraduate students, as it will give so much knowledge and also how to work with the fellow members. I feel fortunate to introduce Dr. Shalini Devi ma'am. Dr. Shalini Devi was alumnus of Shri Vidyaniketan Degree College. She pursued her BSc MSc in 2010. Dr. Shalini secured third rank in her master's. Her PhD work is on isolation and elucidation of secondary metabolites from actinomycetes with anti-phytopathogenic activity against Pseudomonas. She is presently working as assistant professor in Department of Microbiology in Bharati Vidya Bhavan, Hyderabad. She has guided several project works. She also received a Youngest Scientist Award in 2012. She was also received Best Paper Presentation Award in 2018. Her research interests include plant growth promoting microbes. She has published 12 research articles in international and national journals of high repute. Ma'am, we are extremely happy to have you here as a resource person. May I humbly request Dr. Asha Lata ma'am, Principal of Shri Vidyaniketan Degree College, to give the welcome address. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Sai Chandana. Welcome, Dr. Shalini. In fact, today we are very happy that you have joined our webinar, and it's really a privilege. I would call a privilege because when our own alumnus, our own children do well, we take it very proudly. And we say that it is our pride that you are the resource person of the webinar, where we are talking about the mini projects and the importance of mini projects, especially in microbiology for the undergraduate students. So I welcome everybody on board of this webinar today, because we all know that in the present situation or any time, because as a placement trainer for several years, I would tell that the resume, when we actually take it to any kind of a person, whether it's a permanent job or a private job or any kind of a job or a research work, what exactly makes us very formidable, very strong is the way we have projected ourselves in a resume. And that is where the mini projects or the work that we have done in the college and when we are working comes into place. As a personal experience, I believe very strongly in that. And definitely that will enable any employer or anybody who is trying to hire us or give us a kind of a hold for or a platform to do our research work tomorrow. They will distinguish us from others only with the projects that we do or the work that we put in, where we try to show our capability and enhance ourselves in the thought process. So I'm very happy to be part of this webinar, and I would like, as Sai Chandana has already said, we are very, very indebted and very thankful to our esteemed management, very honorable chairperson, our very beloved chairperson, sir, Dr. Mohan Babu Garu, and revered CEO Vishnu Manchu Garu, for always being so much of support and encouragement to do many activities on campus. So even during the pandemic, we did not stop anywhere, and we were able to conduct a series of webinars where we have been sharing a lot of information with the students. And we are thankful to all the resource persons like Dr. Shalini, who are actually helping us to keep this spirit awake and also help all the children to feel much more motivated to go ahead with life and see that the life is always good. Life is always good when we are having determination to make it best and also be the best. So I hope that this webinar is going to give an insight to all the students to take a project work very seriously and take an example from Dr. Shalini, like how she has modeled herself as a best student and now as a best researcher and a faculty, and what tips that we can take from her in order to inculcate them or inhabituate them in our own lives. So students, gear up, take a book, marker, pen, pencil, whatever you have, write down all these things, or record record your video, or take snapshots, because that is what is going to be there with you, and all this knowledge is going to help you to move forward in life. Thank you once again, Dr. Shalini, and we thank our excellent team of faculty and students who have organized this webinar, the Department of Biological Sciences, and also the technical team from the Computer Science Department. So we are very thankful to all the people who have been part of this organization. So welcome again, everybody, and hope we'll have a very good session today in order to take. I'm ready with my book and pen. So we'll go ahead, Shalini, have a wonderful session. Thank you, everybody. Welcome again.
I deem it an honor to invite today's esteemed resource person, Dr. Shalini Devi ma'am, to enlighten us about mini projects on microbiology for undergraduate students. All the participants are eagerly waiting to listen to you, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Shalini, you can just share your presentation. Your co-host, you can directly share the presentation.
Yeah, sir, sure. Is my PPT visible, sir?
Yeah, it is visible.
So, first of all, I would like to thank the whole team of Sri Vidyaniketan for inviting me. Ma'am said thank you to me, Ashalata ma'am, but Ashalata ma'am, I'm telling you, it's my pleasure to be there on this platform, because I really mean how much Vidyaniketan has gave me to grow up in my career. So it has nurtured me a lot, and many teachers from Vidyaniketan have really inspired me. That's why I am here today. So it really means a lot for me, Sri Vidyaniketan. And
so nice of you.
Really, ma'am, I really want to meet you once all this pandemic is done. I would like to meet you personally, come visit my college again and again, get back all my sweet memories. I am waiting to meet you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
So this presentation is very special for me personally. This is because instead of calling dear students, which I do on daily basis, today I can call my dear juniors. Okay, so my dear juniors. So okay, I am your senior, maybe 10 years or 11 years senior to you, because I passed out from Vidyaniketan in 2010. So rather than calling me faculty or professor, you can interact with me more like your senior. I'm there for you. Fine. To start with, our topic today is mini projects for microbiology undergraduate students. So this is Shalini. Again, I'm telling you, you're senior. So first of all, let me clarify you. Why should I do a research project? Before I tell you more about research projects, the first question comes to anyone's mind is, why should I do a research project? I have a lot of works, ma'am. I want to watch movies. I want to hang out with friends. I want to do that, this. How does a research project matters to me? Before I explain this, I would like to ask one question to students. Sir, will the students be able to reply to me?
No, they have all been muted. They will note down, and at the end of your lecture, they will interact with you.
Okay, sir. Okay, fine. No problem. So, when you people have joined BSc Sciences, BSc Microbiology or BSc Biochemistry, whatever it is, do you have an idea what you are supposed to become? Because any student who joins MBBS, they know that they are going to become a doctor in future. Any student who joins BL, they know that they are going to become a lawyer in future. But I know that most of the BSc students who joins in BSc, if I ask, why did you join this course? 99% of the students can give the reply that, ma'am, because we didn't get a seat in MBBS or AGBSc or something else, we are supposed to join or we are forced to join BSc. This is what is the first mistake or misconception which has become a very big hinder for your career growth. Even I faced this problem. First, you should know that a BSc course is designed to make you a scientist. No other course will give so much basics of the subject as a BSc course followed by a MSc course. These courses are designed to make an individual to become a scientist. This is the path which leads an individual to become a scientist. But where you will end up, we can't predict, because even a person who studies engineering may end up doing a clerical job or end up doing a business. But the course BSc is designed to make you a scientist. First, please realize this. So you are going to be a scientist. So obviously you need to have a research orientation, for which a research project at undergraduate level is the basic beginning, is the stepping stone, I say. The second point, your thinking and reasoning capabilities will be enhanced. So you yourself can analyze what you are before you have done a project and what you are after you did a project. You can analyze for yourself actually. The way you observe the things, the way you analyze the things, the way you look at your surroundings, the way even you understand the psychology of the people completely changes after you do a mini research project kind of thing. Because here your thinking capabilities and the reasoning capabilities will be enhanced. Really, I'm telling you. You will know the updated data. I don't know how far you are reading your textbooks, but say Prescott is like Bible for a microbiologist. So the same Prescott remind when I studied BSc microbiology 10 years back, the same U. Satyanarayana textbook of microbiology is the same one which I studied 10-11 years back. But is still the topics or is still the research stopped there? No. In these 10 years, there must be a lot of progress in the field of research, lot of progress in the area of different areas of biology. Are you aware of all the data? May not be, because basing on your curriculum, basing on your syllabus, you are confined only to your textbooks, and which is not at all enough in this competitive world. Students, remember, there are thousands and thousands of BSc students who are passing out every year, taking their graduation and coming out. But in what way you are different? So if you are updated with the recent advancements in the area of biology, in the area of chemistry, or whatever is your area of interest, then you will be an outstanding person from others. Your writing capabilities will improve tremendously. I know that being a teacher, I really know that students rely on the notes a lot. If teacher miss to give notes for a single topic, they don't read that topic. They just leave the topic in choice, or they just simply neglect that. But they don't take time to go to library, read from books, make notes. That generally students does not do. Okay, which you have to do. And all this comes with the writing capabilities. When you read something and when you analyze with your brain and when you put it in your own words, it makes a lot of difference. So when you do a research project and finally when you are writing a report of your research project, compulsory, obviously your writing capabilities are going to improve tremendously. And finally, here is a perk for you. Any student's dream is to get into a reputed institute for your post-graduation or for your doctoral degree studies. And I think these days, many of the students are also aiming to do their masters abroad. So really, I am telling you, I know many of my students also, they went to Germany, UK, US to do their MS. So this project, whatever you have done, it meant a lot for them. So this report, your project report or your project experience will certainly, it will add a lot to your profile, and it will make you to get a seat in reputed institutes, maybe within India, or even if you are trying to go abroad also. It really makes a difference, I am telling you. Then, with all this explanation, if you think that you are convinced with my explanation or with my reasons that I gave for you to do the project, and now if your mind is set to do a project, the roadmap is here for you. How to start with? Yes, ma'am, you are telling you should do a project. It's important for you, but we have no clue about it. What to do? How to go about it? So here is the explanation for you. First, what you need to do? You need to read a lot of literature. What is literature? Literature is nothing but the research which is published already. Why should I know about the research which is already published? Because you should know where others have left the research, and you should know from where you have to start the research. See, if your idea is about inventing a mobile phone, okay, you should know whether it is already done or not. How you will know? Isn't it or not? Similarly, when you have an idea and when you want to know whether this similar idea is already done or if it is already researched or not, you have to read the literature. Okay, then after reading literature, you should go for designing your project work and then execution of the project work. Once you have executed the project work, you should go for writing a report of the project work. Is this an end point? Is this going to end? No. When you are writing a project report, you will get one more new idea. If I say compound X is acting against a bacteria, it is inhibiting a bacteria. Yes, I have successfully seen, I have experimented that compound X is inhibiting a bacteria. I have finished writing my report. Don't you get an thought that is this compound inhibits only one kind of bacteria? Will it inhibit fungi? Will it inhibit virus? Will it inhibit some other different types of bacteria? Can I use it for something else? We get these thoughts. Again, basing on those thoughts, we again try to read the literature, and again we design a project work, and again we report it. So this is the cycle of research, I can say. Then, now I'm going to elaborate or give you a little more explanation about these concepts. How to read literature, how to design your idea, how to write a report. All this we will discuss a bit deeper now. Reading literature. So I already told you reading literature is important to know how much work is already done Okay, so your idea is not first, you are not the first person to get that idea. Maybe somebody else must have got the idea and they must have executed. So you should now know how far the work is done, because research is going on everywhere in the world, my dear. Please remember, it's not only you or me who is doing research. Research is going in the whole world, throughout the world. So you should know how far people have done or what they have done, so that you will know where you should start. Then, to know the gaps in the work, again the same thing. So if somebody says X will provide Y and Y will provide Z, then you have to start with how the Z is going to get continued. So the gaps in the research you should know. Even when you read some research articles or review papers, in the discussion part of the research articles and review papers itself, people will analyze the gaps in the research, and you can read them directly also. Then to keenly understand the conclusions reported by other research groups, you will know what they have concluded, and you will know where you have to start. Then, first of all, how to read the literature. Don't be in a hurry to start your project. First, you should know what is the topic that you are working with, why you are working with that topic, and you should have in mind what is your expected outcome. For this, at least a minimum of 10 days, read the literature. Spend on reading research papers, spend on reading review papers. Yeah, whenever students come to work on projects with me, like I'll say them to read literature on certain topic. Within 2 days, they come back. Have you searched literature? When I ask them, they say, yes, ma'am. How many papers you have seen? Ma'am, we have seen some 5-6 papers. Okay, where are the papers? I'll ask them immediately. They will say, ma'am, they are in my mobile phone. Take my mobile phone. This is the scenario of today's students, but they simply download, keep in their mobile phones, but they never read it. See, students, there are certain things where you need a hard copy for better understanding. So whenever you really read your research papers, say if you have 5 best articles, take printouts of them, try to underline each, and like whenever you find some important points, whenever you find some important methodology, discussion, highlight it, and then file it, and then start doing your work. Don't download, put it on your desktop or in your mobile phones, and I'm telling you that will not work out. You don't remember anything later. Then, yes, ma'am, you said start reading literature. What literature we should read? Yes, I understand. Because research is an ocean. You don't know where to start with, how to start with. To clarify this, today I have come up with few ideas or few clues for you, especially for microbiology students or biochemistry students. I have come up with few ideas. If you want, you can pick some of them and you can start reading literature. So we will see them. Yeah, don't think that research need not to be always very complex. On the screen, you can see different types of sanitizer holders, right? It is very simple. Research can be very simple also. By the term research, don't get carried away that it is something very big. Good research is always a very simple research. You see, in the first picture, you have a sanitizer bottle where we press on it and pick the sanitizer. The next one is you push with the leg and you get it. people first they have put sanitizer in sanitizer bottle. Then they thought people were touching the sanitizer bottle with hand, which may again spread the infections. So they said it is better that they kick with the light. In the third picture, you can see still more improvised method of using sanitizers. Okay, so in this way, improvisation of anything will also be a research. It is also a research. It's not that always you discover something very much new. Look here, every microbiology student must be knowing, at least you must have heard 1,000 times, use 70% ethanol, use 70% ethanol for disinfection. But have you ever questioned why only 70%? When 70% is effective, 100% must be more effective, right? Then why we are not using 100% ethanol? Have you questioned why only 70%? Why not 80%? Why not 90%? Why not 100%? There is a reason behind it. This is because, okay, I'll keep this question aside so that during interactive session, I'll see if any of the students could answer this. If not, I can give you the answer. But why I have put this here is how people or how researchers or scientists must have come to an idea of using only 70% ethanol. They must have tried from 1% ethanol to 100% ethanol. 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, like that. They must have tried using different percentages of ethanol, and finally they have come to a conclusion that 70% is something which is very effective compared to other concentrations. This is also a research. It is not always you discover something very much new. Determining the effective concentration and really finding out, if you still want to dig deeper, try to understand why 70% is more efficient. Then that becomes a deep understanding. Then you can now look at the molecular level of the research. Also you can do when you dig deeper for the reasons, or when you dig deeper for the pathways that are allowing 70% ethanol being a good disinfectant. Yeah. Now, as I told you, I have few clues here for you. Very simple clues. You can read on these topics more, and maybe you can elaborate them. Maybe you can develop these ideas. See, now because of pandemic, you people are at home, lockdown we have, ma'am, no lab, no chemicals, no guidance, and we are still interested to do the project. What to do? You can even do simple research at home. Okay, so you look at the first one. Effect of various chemical fertilizers on nodulation of leguminous plants. We know leguminous plants, right? You have groundnut plant, you have methi plant, which is available for you in the local markets. Yes, buy few groundnuts, allow them to germinate. Nodules will be formed naturally by which bacteria? If you have studied agricultural microbiology, we all know that Rhizobium is a class of organisms which produce nodules in leguminous plants, and these Rhizobium bacteria are important in fixing the nitrogen and providing nitrogen for the plant. Okay, means you are studying again about the growth of your Rhizobium bacteria. Then say you take some 5 pots and try to collect 5 different types of chemical fertilizers, or even you can use 5 different types of organic fertilizers. Give each pot a different kind of fertilizer, and say you leave it for growth for around 30 days or so, then you can pull out the plants and you can see which kind of fertilizer have enhanced the number of nodules, has induced more number of nodules. Okay, means here you are not simply looking at the nodules, but you are analyzing that a particular fertilizer or a particular compound in a particular fertilizer is inducing the growth of your bacteria, is inducing the growth of bacteria. Because it is inducing the growth of bacteria, there are more number of nodules produced. This is a simple work, I mean the preliminary work which you can even do at home. You just need some pots, soil, plants, different types of fertilizers, which are all available with you. You should have only the interest. Then if you come up with some conclusion, meet your teacher, okay, meet your faculty and say, ma'am, these are the results I got. Can we do some extension for this in our lab? Then obviously your microbiology teacher will ask you to isolate the rhizobium from the plants. You can do it on the EMA medium. You can look at the isolated colonies, use your microscope. Then you can see, is there any change in the morphology of the organism because of the chemical fertilizer, a particular chemical fertilizer? Is there any change in the growth pattern of the organism? Okay, is there any change in the number of metabolites produced or the amount of metabolites produced by the organism? So all these different kinds of work or different types of extensions you can make for this simple project, simple title. You can even work in a group, like when one person picks groundnut plant, you can ask your friend to work on methi plant. You can compare the results and you can write a combined report. Okay. Then another simple idea is the curding potential of various branded and non-branded curd samples. See, microbiology students, we are really blessed fellows. Like, we have a boon that microbes are everywhere. You can play with them. They are everywhere really. So you take different branded curds, like you have different brands in the market. I need not to name them. Similarly, you can pick some non-branded curd samples. You can inoculate them into the milk sample and you can see which brand of curd is giving faster curdling effect, maybe within 2 hours or so. Then you can isolate the organisms that are responsible for fast curding effect. Isn't it or not? Then you can study the biochemical or biochemistry of that organism. Then you can see which metabolite produced by that organism is making the curding process faster. Recently, we are exploring another probiotic, that is kefir. You can read more on kefir. It is not much famous in India, but in other countries like Turkey and Germany, this kefir is a well-known probiotic drink. And presently, me and our students are working on this kefir and the microorganisms involved in this kefir formation and all. Then interestingly, what I have seen is the third project. Look at the third project. Effect of various containers on curding time and quality of curd. So try to make the curd in a glass vessel, in a steel vessel, in a copper vessel, in a mud vessel, in a silver container, etc. We know that different metals like copper, steel, etc. They show different effects on the growth of the microorganisms. Isn't it or not? We know that silver has got antibacterial properties. We know that copper has got antibacterial properties. But what is the thing that makes your curd? It is again combination of 2 or 3 types of bacteria. So what is the effect when you use these vessels to make the curd? This can be your preliminary observation. Once your preliminary observation is done, you can get them to the lab and you can see what is the realistic effect. You can study more on it. You can read more literature about it. And you can take the help of your faculty and to extend the project and all. Then, effect of various cosmetic lotions on skin normal flora. These days, there are lot number of cosmetics in the market, and these cosmetic lotions, when you apply every day on your skin, you all must be aware that you are surrounded by normal flora. I'll tell you a fact. At least 5 kg of your body weight is because of the bacteria that is residing on you. I repeat, at least 5 to 8 kg of your body weight. Say if you are 50 kgs weight today, your original weight must be only 45 plus 5 kg is the bacteria. Okay, so they are the normal flora, they are the beneficial bacteria actually. When you are using these cosmetic lotions, applying on your skin every day, is there any effect of these cosmetic lotions on your skin normal flora? If so, what is the effect? If you are applying every day, you may lose some essential skin normal flora. Even if you do a work on this, this also comes out to be an excellent report, I imagine. Then the regular projects, what microbiology students would do is antimicrobial activity of various plant samples. If you have a garden at home, you can have 10 different types of plant samples. If you have, you can pick those plant samples and you can try the antimicrobial activity. This is actually very regularly done activity, but still you can try, no problem. You can also try doing dye degrading microbes because these days we have a lot of concern about environmental pollution. You can pick any kind of environmental pollutant. You can pick plastic, you can pick toxic dyes that are left into the water bodies from many textile industries. Okay, you can pick some kind of pesticides. You can pick any other kind of pollutant, maybe a water pollutant or a soil pollutant. You can check if there are any microorganisms which can degrade those environmental pollutants. Then you can also work on enzyme producing microbes, because enzyme producing microbes have a vast market outside. Amylase producing organisms, pectinase producing organisms, cellulase producing organisms. If you search, something interesting is the fruit juices you drink, they are homogenized by using enzymes. Again, those enzymes are extracted from microbes. Okay, because microorganisms, they act as factories for production of many industrially important products. And another interesting fact is that you must have seen the faded jeans and the texture of jeans pants, etc. So there is an enzyme produced by a fungal isolate, Trichoderma, which can give you that texture for the jean pant, and also different types of fadings, faded jeans and all are also done using microbial enzymes. Then you can think little bit out of box. You can think multidisciplinary. If you have friends from statistics department, you can collaborate with them and you can do some kind of microbiology and the statistics mingled kind of analysis. Then antimicrobial effect of various nanoparticles. Why I say multidisciplinary is, say if nanoparticles are produced by some chemistry students can produce nanoparticles. I mean, they can synthesize nanoparticles in the lab, and their antimicrobial effect can be checked by a microbiologist. So in this way, you can have a collaboration like with other departments also. Then another interesting what we have done, and last year my student received a special appreciation prize for this work. A BSc student under my guidance have done a bit of this work. We have seen the effect of mobile phone radiation on bacterial growth. Means you can take the mobile phone and you have to analyze how much amount of radiation it gives out. All that is available on the net anyway. Then we have designed an experiment to expose mobile radiation, to expose microorganisms to the mobile radiation for a few hours, and we have checked what is the growth pattern of the organism. Is there any difference in the morphology of the organism, and is there any in the pattern of resistance of that organism after exposing to mobile radiation? Means before exposing to mobile radiation, say I have a lab isolate of E. coli. Okay, without exposing to mobile phone radiation, say my E. coli is sensitive to one antibiotic. Okay, I haven't exposed E. coli. It is sensitive to a particular antibiotic. What it means, if I use that antibiotic, I can kill my lab isolate E. coli. Now I have exposed the lab isolate E. coli to certain amount of mobile phone radiation. Then I will check, is it still sensitive to that antibiotic, or is there any change in its resistance pattern? Okay, because on daily basis, whether you are awake or you are sleeping, with no connection to that, we are being exposed to mobile phone radiations continuously. So microorganisms are very minute cells. They can undergo mutations very easily. Second year students who are studying molecular biology and different types of mutagens and all, you must understand very well. A single cellular organism, it is more prone for mutations. So when these organisms are being exposed to lot many mobile phone radiations on daily basis, what kind of mutations that are happening inside them, in their DNA, in what way that is affecting their behavior? You can do a preliminary study. If you are really successful, you can take help of your faculty or higher authorities, and you can go for sequencing the DNA, and you can really find out where exactly the mutation have happened, and you can go for reporting it also. Then another interesting topic will be detection of adulterants in food samples. Day-to-day basis, we eat food, right? Different kinds of food. So you all must have experienced when you take groundnuts, there will be some kind of greenish mold on the groundnuts. We simply pick it out, put it aside, and we continue cooking, or sometimes maybe in hotels or at places where they sell food and all, they may not even mind it. They may continue cooking. So, you know, that is a kind of unknowingly done adulteration. Not only that, you have different types of adulterants. If you are really interested to work on it, I can share a link with you where all the simple protocols for detection of adulterants in food samples is given. It is given by FSSAI. You can also find it in the FSSAI website. You have around 80 plus simple techniques. I repeat, all these techniques are household techniques, which you can do with the items or the things that you have in your kitchen. You can detect different types of adulterants. All the protocols, authenticated protocols, are there on the FSSAI website. You can try using them and doing a project. So basing on this, recently we have even conducted a competition for our students. We asked them to detect adulterants at their home. Because of pandemic, they couldn't do anything else. So we gave them this activity. They did. They shot a video and they have sent to us, and we are about to finalize the winners. Actually, we got a very good response from our students. So this also you can try. Detection of different adulterants in food samples, different oil samples, ghee, different milk samples like paneer and different packed milks, kova, cheese, or all these butter, all this you can take and you can analyze. So these were few ideas which I want to share with you. You can pick up few of them and you can think, you can develop those ideas. So I think these ideas will help you. Then, how to execute the work? Write your work plan clearly in the form of a flow chart. Write it on a book. Read it many a times. Read it repeatedly. See if you are going somewhere wrong. Okay, is there some connection missing in between? Analyze yourself. Show your work plan to your guide. Take their inputs. This is the first point. The second point I want to give you is maintain always negative and positive controls. Not simply doing an experiment. Maintaining controls is also very important. Then experiments should be conducted in replicates or triplicates. See, when I say antimicrobial activity, you cannot do it on a single plate and say, yes, ma'am, I got the result. I got the inhibition or something like that. This is wrong. You have to repeat the same experiment at least 2 times or 3 times. You have to set up the same experiment more than once. And if you are getting the same result repeatedly, only then you can declare the result or you can take the result for granted. Simply doing once and reporting is not at all allowed. Then statistical analysis is also important. You cannot report the values simply because there will be some experimental errors. How much ever precisely you do the experiment, still errors will go. Errors will occur in any kind of experiment. So as to minimize the error rate, so as to minimize the effect of error on your result, I can say more precisely, statistical analysis has to be done. So for this, again, you can collaborate with your statistics friends. You have MSCS, MECS students. You can collaborate with them. You can do microbiology part. They will do statistical part. Together, you can publish a paper. Then, this is very important. So, students will do work very sincerely. They will come up to the teacher and they will show the results. What a teacher will say, yeah, please document it. Please take a photograph immediately before you lose your result. Document it. Teacher will say, take a picture. What a student will do, look on the left side. This is how they take the photographs usually. The background is not clear. It's not a good background. They have wrapped the Petri plates and they have opened on that newspaper, put it and took the picture. Can you see the result on it? Is it nice to see? Okay, leave aside nice to see or not, leave it aside. Is the experiment showing up results? Your expected results? No, not at all. Isn't it or not? So a good researcher should always be a good photographer also, because only your photos are the evidence for your result. If you come and say, ma'am, we have done the work nicely, we have completed the work nicely, nobody will believe. They will ask you, where are the results? Your results will be, especially in case of life sciences, your results will be in the form of your photographs. Okay, so always remember, a good researcher should be a good photographer. Only then people will believe your results, or they will take your results granted. You see on the right side, there should be a good background and you should take the picture exactly from the top. Don't take it from the side. Okay. And sometimes even while pasting it on the slide and all, or in the thesis, they will pull the photograph as they wish. Please don't do all this. All this will really depreciate the quality of your work. Yes, you have done the work. What is the proof? Where is the evidence? Your photographs of your results will be the evidence of your report. Isn't it or not? If not, who will believe? Then finally, yes, the project is done. Now writing a project report. This is again something very essential which you should know, because how much ever you do, how you present matters a lot. Isn't it or not? You cook very nicely, but if you are presenting it in a very odd bowl, people may not like it. So the way you present is something, the way you write your project report. It essentially contains, any project report should essentially contain abstract followed by an introduction, where the introduction will speak about the problem of the work that you have taken up, and it also includes the approach to solve the problem. Then objectives, methodology is how you have executed the work. Then results, discussion. Discussion is something what others have done, what you have done, how you can correlate your work to the work done in the similar field or in the same field by other group of researchers. With that, what is your conclusion? It all includes discussion. Means you discuss on your results. Yes, I have done this, I have got these results, my results can be applied like this. All this will come under the discussion portion. Then future plan of work. Always a research mind should have a future plan of work. Okay, when you do something, in what way you can extend that work should be there in your mind. You can write that in 1 or 2 lines under your future plan of work. Then finally, conclusion. After all this, what is your conclusion? What is the exact outcome of your work? Will be under the side head conclusion. Next, plagiarism check. Copying is prohibited. So whenever I ask students to write a project report, to write some introduction or to write a review of literature, they simply copy paste. Yeah, Control C, Control V. Project report done, madam. What you have done, madam? Use 2 keys, madam. Control C, copy, Control V, paste, madam. My project report is done, madam. It is like you copy in your exams. You should never do that. You should never ever do that. We call it as plagiarism, which is a very big offense. It is a punishable offense. You need to write in your own sentences by giving the reference. If I say 70% alcohol is a good disinfectant. This is the first line in my report. Say this is the introduction for my report. 70% alcohol is used as a disinfectant. I cannot stop my sentence there because it is not me who have discovered that 70% alcohol will work. It must be some XYZ person. Some years back, some 20-30 years back, they must have discovered this fact. So whenever you write a statement, okay, beside that statement or beside that sentence, you should really give the reference of the person who have reported that fact. You cannot own all the sentences. Got it? You should write who have stated that or who have found that fact. If I write streptomycin has got antibacterial activity, have I discovered streptomycin? Have I tested and reported that streptomycin has got antimicrobial activity? No, somebody else must have done it. I should give their name as reference. Okay, so this is one thing, I mean putting the references. Another important thing is plagiarism check. Sentences as it is, you should not copy paste. You have to write the sentences, rewrite the sentences in your own words. This is why I told you, when you write a project report, your writing skills will improve tremendously. It will not be a copy-paste job. Fine. This is something which makes me worry a lot. Sometimes even we expect, say for suppose, there is a antimicrobial compound. Say I take tulsi plant, I grind tulsi leaves, and I am telling in a very simple way. Okay, I will try to inhibit the growth of some bacteria. The bacterial growth is not inhibited. Students will cry. I have seen, so in the morning when I go to lab, I have seen students crying in the morning. What happened, Nana? Ma'am, the inhibition does not happen. Yesterday we have kept some plate, some antimicrobial activity we have done, but there is no zone of inhibition. So that is a result. Always whatever you expect need not to happen. Remember, you are experimenting. And you will come to a conclusion, yes or no. Yes is an answer. Similarly, no is also an answer. So when you get some negative results or when you get some unexpected results, don't worry, they are also results. Read this sentence given by Thomas Alva Edison. See, he tried making bulb and used different materials for making the filament of the bulb. Many a times, hundreds of times, different 100 number of materials he used. That doesn't work. Then somebody asked him, what did you find out? You failed, mister. After trying all these different metals or materials, Mister, you failed, they said. Edison replied, I haven't failed. I have just found out that these materials will not work out. Similarly, you have used Tulasi extract. It didn't inhibit. You have discovered that this Tulasi extract will not inhibit this bacteria. That is also a discovery. If it inhibits, yes, it inhibits this bacteria. That is also a discovery. So don't worry when you get unexpected results, when you don't get expected results. So this is all about what I want to talk to my juniors. Hope you are connected. Yes, thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You have brought all your experiences into play and explained us about various projects, and you also made us interested and excited on doing projects. I'm sure that all the participants has taken notes of all the important points that you have discussed about various projects. Thank you, ma'am. Now I request Dr. B. Ishwari, Assistant Professor of Sri Vidyaniketan Degree College, to start question and answer session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Chandana.
So, good evening, all of you. First of all, I thank our resource person, Shalini Garu, today for this wonderful and exciting lecture on the mini projects. And she has discussed all the things about how to do the projects and how to write the project reports. So now the session is open for discussion. Any questions or queries are welcome for the Shalini ma'am.
Yes, my dear juniors, I would love to interact with you. Hope I will meet you all soon. I'll try to come to college and see you all very soon once the pandemic ends. Nothing to talk to me.
One of the students have asked this question, Shalini. I have noted this down. There are so many canteens and small little cafeterias in and around Vidyaniketan. Can we test microbial inhibition in the raw material and in the cooked or fried material that is available in the shops?
Sir, you mean you want to test different types of organisms present in cafeteria?
Like a streptococcus or any such microbes which are harmful to human beings. Can those be tested in the raw material and in the cooked material that is available in and around the small little canteens that are there in the near Vidyaniketan campus, just to know how much importance in terms of hygiene they are giving to the preparation?
Yes, sir, we can check it, sir. In fact, we have standard regulations and standard protocols given by FCI, sir, and Food Security Department of India has also gave us standard protocols for testing, and also it has also gave us microbial limits. Means we cannot say that there should be zero microbial count. Some amount of microbial count is allowed, and that is also given, sir. There are standards about that, and we have standard procedures also.
So students can take up a mini project like that, and
yes,
they can execute it.
Yes,
same is the case with the water samples also.
Yes, sir. Yes. For water samples, we have a standard test called as MPN test, which is a regular laboratory experiment. I mean, within the curriculum, we have it for final year students. In the final year, they actually have MPN method. The same method, they can use it for testing different water samples, sir.
Any more questions from students?
So I asked one question to students, sir. We, from morning to evening, whenever you work in a microbiology lab, we always use 70% ethanol. I asked them why only 70%? Why not 90%? Why not 100%? Why it should be only 70?
I think they can unmute and talk. Mr. Munishankar, please give permission for the Zoom participants. Whoever wants to talk, let him or her raise hands so that Munishankar will unmute them and they can answer the question that was asked by the resource person.
Even any other questions are also fine.
Shivagangadhar Reddy, you can unmute and you can talk.
Hello, sir, is it audible?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really interesting and motivating to us. My question is, how many papers is essential for writing a research article, madam?
So if you ask me how many...
Does it really plays a role, ma'am?
Yes, it plays a role. It plays a very important role, Shiva. Without reading literature, you cannot move a single step ahead. As many as papers you read, that much efficient you will become. See, when you really work on a particular topic, if you are really working with full involvement, you should have or you should know every paper published in that particular area. You should be updated with it. But for an undergraduate level student, I suggest at least you should have 10 to 15 research articles and at least 1 or 2 review papers on the subject in which you are doing your project. You should read compulsorily. 10 to 15 research papers, 1 or 2 review articles. Because review articles can give you a lot of information. One review article is equal to 20 research articles. Okay, a review article is nothing but they will combine the conclusions or they will combine the results of some 30-40 research papers and they will all put it in one review paper. Okay. So one more thing I want to tell to you all is please read only authenticated papers. When you search on the web, you get many predatory journals where the information can be wrong and all. So please read PubMed journals, read only the information from reputed journals. Don't read Wikipedia information or don't read all those unauthorized information, I request.
Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you, Shiva.
I would like to thank once more, ma'am, because the picture which you have represented, that is a sanitizer bottle by showing a sensor sanitizer. See, even that itself is giving a lot of motivation to us, madam, because previously we were thinking, could we make a research article? Now itself we are thinking like we are not having that much mind. But after seeing your presentation, we really inspired and now we are interested to do more research, madam.
You can pick idea from anywhere, Shiva, actually. So you read
Yes.
on the stories, Shiva, I suggest you to read the stories how a PCR mission was discovered. Polymerase chain reaction mission is a big turning point in the area of molecular biology. There is a story behind it, how it was discovered. Read such stories that will inspire you a lot. Yeah.
Thank you so much, madam.
Read the story of how people have discovered the structure of benzene. It is there in your Chand and Chand organic chemistry textbook. Okay, that I remember. I read during my degree days. I still remember how the structure of benzene was discovered. Yeah, read those stories.
Madam, you have said how to present a like a research article, and then after presenting our research article, where should we send our findings, madam?
To journal, ma, you have good number of journals, but you have to choose to which journal your paper will is apt for. So for that, you can take the help of your faculty. You have lot many journals. If you want me to tell, you go to UGC website. You just type UGC, United Grants Commission. You know, right? You type UGC. So in that you have list of approved journals by UGC. You click on it. There you will have two categories of journals, level 1 journals and level 2 journals, or something like category A, category B journals you will have. So you can choose any journal related to your topic. This is one idea. The second and simple idea is you will read literature, right? I asked you to collect the research articles. So all those research articles which you have collected and which you have read, they are all related to your topic of your work. So those papers must have got published in some journals. So when you read 10 research articles, by now you know the names of 10 journals. Okay, you can search directly the website of those journals and you can select which is good for you. But don't go for predatory journals. There are certain journals which ask you for money. They will take some money and they will publish your paper, and that is just losing your money. You will not get any credit out of it. But before doing so, consult your guide or consult your faculty.
Okay, ma'am.
Hope I have answered you.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Yeah. Any other questions?
From the students, one more question, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Based on the topic we have selected for the research project, if the selected topic has already done, can we proceed with that project or not? They are asking.
Oh, if it is already done, see, you can think in what other way you can do. I told you already. Say if somebody has tested on staphylococci, you can think of testing the antifungal activity. You can think of testing on some other bacteria. So once you read the literature, don't do the same thing. Don't repeat the same thing. That will limit your thinking abilities. And also there will be problem when you write for a journal. They may not accept it very quickly because they say it is a repeated work. Why we should accept it compulsorily? They may give you a query. They may ask you a query. So when you have something already reported, don't do the same work. You can try with something else. See, for example, say for suppose you have read an article on dye-degrading bacteria. Somebody in Tamil Nadu must have isolated a bacillus strain that is doing dye degradation, and they have reported on black dye. Why don't you try on red dye? Why don't you try on something else? And why don't you try isolating some other kind of bacteria for your work? Again, I am telling you, for microbiology students, you have a lot of opportunity because so far only 2% of the microorganisms present on this earth are explored. 99 or 98% of the microorganisms are still not explored. They are still not cultured. So you have that 98% of scope or opportunity to move ahead to explore the microorganisms. So much is unexplored. Got the answer?
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your answer. One more question from the same student.
Yeah.
Can you suggest some websites for the beginners so that they can read and publish some review articles based on the work discussed in the websites or journals?
Websites means I didn't get the point, because if you are asking me for journals, the journal will be different for different topics. Say if I want to do work in the area of agricultural microbiology, the journal will be different. If I want to work in the area of medical microbiology, the kind of journal will be different. So I can't specify you a website, Nana, because it all depends on the topic you choose. So, but first try to fix on the topic which you are interested in, and then try to read some research papers on it. First don't first you read at least 5 to 10 papers. First fix an idea, fix a topic, read some papers, then you will understand where to step. As I told you, for every topic there are specific journals. I can't give a specific journal as of now. But if you can come up with a particular topic and if you ask me, I can suggest. I told you, go to UGC website. You have list of UGC approved journals. It's a very big list. You will have thousands of journals. You can pick one related to your topic.
Thank you for your answer, ma'am. She is asking that you have told 2 categories of journals. So,
Okay.
can you suggest some of the websites where these journals can be found?
No, every journal will have its own website. Say for suppose environmental sustainability is a Springer journal. I can type the name of the journal directly on the Google, and the journal website will be displayed. If I say Research Journal of Pharmacy and Technology is again one journal, you can directly type Research Journal of Pharmacy and Technology and Google it. You will get it. You will get the website. On their website, you will have all the papers published. So I don't know, maybe I think even your library, once you go back to your college, Vidyaniketan's library must be subscribing for some journals where you can have hard copies of the journal in your library. If that is there, you can read from the library also. If not, you get all the journals. Most of the reputed journals are like free of cost. You can browse it on the website.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, you have asked a question, no, ma'am. Means why 70% alcohol is?
You have come up with the answer? Yeah.
Ma'am, I think 100% alcohol is means it will evaporate more fastly when compared to 70%. In 70% alcohol, water also added, no, ma'am. So that evaporation will not occur so fastly when compared to 100% ethanol. And 70% ethanol will coagulate the proteins proteins and lipids present in the bacterial cell wall.
So
in
that
100%,
bacteria will, yeah, they just go into dormant stage, And once the environment is good for them, they will come out from the dormant stage, but they will not be killed. But if it is 70% alcohol, the alcohol molecules can penetrate into the cell and they can kill the organism.
Yes.
Similarly, you can also think of why only 254 nanometer UV radiation can kill the bacterial cells, but not, even though we say UV radiation can show sterilization effect on bacteria, but 254 nanometer is highly effective. You can also search why. You can also
maybe it is also with same principle only, no ma'am. Means I think only that much radiation will penetrate and it will kill.
No, here the reason is different. 254 nanometer is the wavelength which is highly absorbed by the purines of your DNA. Purines and pyrimidines of the DNA, they absorb this wavelength to a higher extent. So there is more chance for the mutation to occur when they absorb that radiation. Okay.
Okay.
So in this way, whatever you do, first try to think why, don't do blindly. That's it.
Okay.
If there are no further questions, Sai Chandana, you can go ahead.
Okay, sir. Ma'am, I have another question also.
Yes.
Actually, we thought of doing projects, means me and my friends, while discussing about the projects, we thought of doing with garlic and ginger, ma'am. Means antimicrobial activity from garlic and ginger. We can do that also, no, ma'am. Means how to do how can we do the project, ma'am, with those?
See, garlic and ginger are reported as antimicrobial antimicrobial compounds already. There are reports. So now, immediately, if you ask me, I can tell how you can apply this ability.
Yes, ma'am.
The fact is already established, but this fact, how can you make it into an application? These days, when you go to supermarkets, you get biodegradable bags, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We are finding these biodegradable bags. Can you mix the extracts of garlic or ginger while manufacturing these bags? And can you make the vegetable bags itself antimicrobial bags? Can you manufacture? That becomes a stepping stone. Isn't it or not?
Yes, ma'am.
These days, because I have seen only Vimal hoarding somewhere here. They said antimicrobial suits, antimicrobial shirts for men. Okay, we know that nanoparticles will show antimicrobial activity. But see, these days, antimicrobial shirts have come up, antimicrobial Asian paints have come up.
Yes, ma'am.
So, fact is established. Now take it for application step. So, recently I have seen one advertisement also, antimicrobial bulbs by Wipro. Have you seen that ad on your television?
Yes. Actually,
There will be
I saw about only paints, ma'am, antimicrobial paints.
Yeah, I have seen this ad. It is coming. Wipro. You can even type on YouTube and see that ad now. Wipro bulbs with antimicrobial light. Okay. But I wondered if they kill our normal flora. Yes, antimicrobial. If I sit under that light whole night, whole day, what about my microbial flora on the skin? I am very much worried about my normal flora. They are beneficial, right? So I should not lose them. So antimicrobial bulbs have come up. So in this way, how you can take it to the application level, you can think.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So shall I continue, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Now I request our head Department of Biological Sciences, Dr. S.V. Ravikant, sir, to propose vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Respected Principal Madam, my dear colleagues, and dear Shalini, on behalf of the organizing committee, this is the first time I am proposing vote of thanks like this. On behalf of the organizing committee, I bless our alumnus, Dr. Shalini. Usually this is how we begin, Shalini. On behalf of organizing committee, I thank the resource person. So this is the first time I have started like this. On behalf of the organizing committee, I thank and I bless our alumnus, Dr. Shalini. A teacher would be extremely happy when he sees his students excelling in the academic career. I am sure Dr. Shalini will be able to understand my feelings as she herself is a teacher. When she sees her students performing, I definitely can understand your joy will knew no bounds. Similarly, I was having goosebumps when you were talking. So, as you have aptly mentioned, most of the students mechanically study the notes given by their teachers and reproduce the same in the examination. Students lack the knowledge of executing mini projects at their undergrad level. The present webinar would definitely help them to carry out mini projects. I am particularly happy because you have started from the scratch to read the literature, design the project, and execute the project work. That was the first slide. Well, you are 20 years younger to us, 25 years younger to us. So you would probably gauge the wavelength of students more than what we do. We are having sufficient experience, but I think you have better skill of understanding them because your wavelength more often than not matches the wavelength of the present generation. You have given relevant examples like one of our students mentioned about the sanitizer. And therefore, I am sure students have thoroughly understood what you have said. This is for our students. My dear students, do you want to know how to define hard work and commitment? Let me tell you. Dr. Shalini is extremely busy with NAC work. She starts her work from early morning at 5:30 and does that till 11 o'clock in the night. She has a family, has a small kid, and look at her commitment. If you have this kind of commitment, I am sure you will get a lot of awards in the future. And while presenting, Sai Chandana told that Shalini was awarded best presentation awards and so many awards, ranks at the university level and all. And if you want to rise to that level, and if you want to take a leaf out of her book, I think this is how the commitment has to be. I am pretty sure despite your busy schedule, you have taken sufficient time off and discussed the topic in detail. I could vividly see the nostalgic feeling and the way you addressed our students, my dear juniors, is an ample testimony of your love to Vidyaniketan. Thanks a lot. We have organized so many webinars, but this is the first time a resource person is addressing like this, my dear juniors. So I'm pretty sure the nostalgic feeling that you had and the love you have towards your alma mater, you have demonstrated it aptly. I am sure all the participants have gained sufficient knowledge as to how to carry out mini projects, and I'm sure they will publish good research articles by the time they complete their undergraduation. My sincere thanks to our beloved and dynamic principal, Dr. Asha Lata Madam. I want Dr. Shalini to come to Vidyaniketan and meet Madam.
Yeah, my pleasure, sir.
It is only because of her we could organize so many workshops, so many webinars, and we are doing great here. Thanks, Madam, for all the encouragement. I would like to thank Mr. Munishankar for all the technical support he has lent in organizing this program. Because there were small little technical snacks associated with this Zoom platform, which we could not address because we belong to biological sciences. So we would find it difficult to address some of those technical snacks. I thank Mr. Munishankar for all the technical support. I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to all the participants without whom this event would not have been unfolded. Sai Chandana, this is the second consecutive day she is anchoring the program. She has anchored well yesterday and she continued doing that today also. Thanks, Nana. I thank our management for supporting us in all possible ways in making this event possible. I would like to thank the media team which designed the brochure and e-certificates. I would like to thank my colleagues, Dr. Ishwari, Dr. Lekyapriya, Dr. Sridevi, for all their help right from the beginning. And once again, Dr. Shalini, thanks a lot and God bless you for the time you have taken off to today's webinar. It was a thoroughly professional way of presenting the webinar. Thanks a lot and back to you, Sai Chandana.
Sir, here I would like to add, because after your thanks giving, I would like to add saying that today I really enjoyed being a very good student. I had the nostalgia of listening to my favorite teacher when she was talking, so when she was presenting. So bless you, Shalini, for that. So today I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. I am thinking that you are my best teacher. So that was the way I enjoyed your presentation. So that's the blessings and that's all the wishes that we wanted to give you. That was an excellent presentation and thank you so much for enlightening our students.
So thank you so much, ma'am. Ashalata, ma'am. I'm waiting to meet you. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, because I really meant that Vidyaniketan has gave me a lot, and this is an opportunity to give back at least a bit from what I took from my institute.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for the opportunity, ma'am. So thank you so much, Ravikant sir, for calling me and giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, we will do many more initiatives with your support, Shalini.
Sure, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Shalini, ma'am. Thank you, teachers and participants who have joined us today. I asked all the participants to fill the feedback for receiving your e-certificates. Thank you.